morning and welcome to SouthPoint Church. I'm Paula.
Hi, everybody. I'm Elisa. Welcome. It's so good to have you online with us today. We're glad you're joining us, and whether you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook, or really where the best experience is southpointforyou.com/live. Thanks for joining us, and we invite you to go and share out everything on social media so other people can join us and be encouraged.
That's right. Pastor Matt is continuing his series called Crazy, how to deal with chaos on the inside and outside of each of us, which I need
twice.
Yes. And it's such a great message. That's okay. Come on through. Such a great message from the series. And also we want to let you know that we're going to be celebrating communion this morning. And so now is the time to grab something that will represent the body and the blood of Jesus. It can be crackers and water, coffee and a donut, whatever you have. We just want you to be prepared at the end of the message to celebrate communion this morning.
Absolutely. Please plan to do it with us. We also want to invite you, if you would, to go to southpointforyou.com/connect or click on the connect card that's in the chat. It lets us know that you're here when you fill those out.
That's right. And hey, did you hear that we are launching a whole new round of small groups right now? So exciting. So if you would like to get connected in that way, we would love it if you would go to southpointforyou.com/groups.
We're going to join the worship team now, but as we go into worship, remember Psalms 23. The Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I need. Let's join the worship team now.
Good morning, SouthPoint Church. Would you stand to your feet? Whether you are joining us in the room or online, welcome to the house of the Lord. Let's worship Him together boldly this morning.
Good morning. Has it been a long night? Maybe been a long year, maybe been a hard life, maybe you're not alright. If you got a little red in your eyes, then you'll come to the right place. Cause people like you, people like me, this is where we all find grace. Come on now. Bet you wanna sing hallelujah, bet you're saying amen. I can't help but celebrate being born again. Somebody who loves you, he's waiting at the door. It's home sweet home here in the house of the Lord. Take a load off, you're about to find your rest. It's a crazy world out there, got your home right here out of the wilderness. If you're needing water for your soul, well, you're in the right place. Doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, whoever you are, this is where we all find grace. Come on now. Bet you wanna sing hallelujah, bet you're saying amen. I can't help but celebrate being born again. Somebody who loves you is waiting at the door. It's home sweet home here in the house of the Lord. Bring your heartache, bring your burden, you can lay them down at the door. There is no fear, you belong here. Step into the house of the Lord. Bring your heartache, bring your burden, you can lay them down at the door. Ain't it so clear, you belong here. Step into the house of the Lord. Hallelujah. Bet you wanna sing hallelujah, bet you're saying amen. I can't help but celebrate being born again. Somebody who loves you is waiting at the door. It's home sweet home here in the house of the Lord. Bring your heartache, bring your burden, you can lay them down at the door. Ain't it so clear, you belong here. Step into the house of the Lord. Hallelujah. Woo!
Amen. In Luke 6, Jesus said, "As for everyone who comes to me and hears my words and puts them into practice, I will show you what they are like. They're like a man building a house who dug down deep and laid the foundation on rock. Christ is my firm foundation, the rock on which I stand. Whenever everything around me is shaking. I've never been more glad that I put my faith in Jesus, 'cause he's never let me down. He's faithful through generations. So why would he fail now? He won't. When the flood came, the torrent struck that house but could not shake it, because it was well built. When we build our lives on Jesus, we cannot be shaken. I've still got joy in chaos. I've got peace that makes no sense, so I won't be going under. I'm not held by my own strength, 'cause I built my life on Jesus, and he has never let me down. Faithful in every season. So why would he fail now? Come on, church. He won't. No, he won't. No, he won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. He won't fail. He won't. No, 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 no. He won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. Christ is my firm foundation. Hey! The rock on which I stand when everything around me is shaking. I've never been more glad that I put my faith in Jesus, 'cause he's never let me down. He's faithful through generations. So why would he fail now? He won't. Yes. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. No, he won't. He won't. He can't. No, he won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. So when we face trials, not if, but when, if our house is built on Jesus, our rock, our salvation, we cannot be shaken. He will never leave us or forsake us. He is our foundation. Rain came and wind blew, but my house was built on you. I'm safe with you. I'm gonna make it through. Come on, church, sing. Rain came, wind blew, but my house was built on you. I'm safe with you. I'm gonna make it through. I'm gonna make it. Rain came, wind blew, but my house was built on you. can, he won't, he never fails. He won't fail. He won't fail. No, he won't. We can trust you, we love you. He won't. We adore you. He won't fail. He won't fail. Amen. Amen.
Oh, Lord God, thank you so much. Thank you for bringing us into your house today, into the house of the Lord. Thank you that you meet us where we are at, Lord. We don't have to be in this building in order to come meet you. We don't have to be in a sacred space. You, Lord, meet us where we're at. You meet us here in this building. You meet us online. You meet us at the coffee shop. You meet us everywhere that we are, and we are so grateful for that. No matter how far we go ahead and stray from you, you still are there to meet us every single time. Lord, thank you for being the firm foundation. Thank you for being that rock for us. Lord, we just pray that if there's anybody who's going through a tough time right now, may you be with them. May they feel your steadfastness. May they feel your presence, your love. Lord God, we just pray for Pastor Matt today as he brings us the message. May he go ahead and be a vessel for you. May he just channel you. May your Holy Spirit come out through him and meet this congregation where they're at, whether they're here in the building or online. Thank you so much for your love. Thank you for sending your son, and thank you that the grave is empty. Lord, it is in your son, Jesus' name, that we pray. Amen. Thank you for worshiping with us, everybody, this morning. You can go ahead and take your seats.
Good morning, everybody. So nice to see you on this Sunday. And wow, what a great message from the worship team, right? You know, God's word is unchanging, and God is unchanging. Me? Oh, Lord have mercy. Who was I 10 seconds ago, right? How about you? You feel that way too? Isn't it good to hear that God is our firm foundation? And that's going to tie in so dramatically with the message Pastor Matt is continuing the series today about being crazy, not about being crazy, about crazy. What's on the inside and what we're all dealing with and facing on the outside. A good message. If it's your first time at SouthPoint Church, you have a great Sunday ahead of you, and we're so glad that you're here. We invite you to text the word welcome to this number that's on the screen, 240-297-7400. So if you're online or if you're in the room, go ahead and pull out your phone right now. You're not going to want to miss a minute of what Pastor Matt's going to say, but pull out your phone right now and text the word welcome. We have a little gift to give to you. We also want to mention that if you are one of those people like me that needs regular reminders throughout the week of who you are in Christ, and Sunday may not be enough to get you 7 days, how about a small group? We are truly better together. We invite you to check out our small groups at SouthPoint. They're just getting underway, and it's a great way during the week to reconnect and get a great reminder. Next thing I want to mention as far as a couple of announcements is right after this service, if you're the parent of a middle school or a high school student, we invite you to go pick up your students or your little people from Children's Church and come right back into the auditorium. We have a Parent Connect specifically for middle school and high school parents. Lets you know what the curriculum is, what's coming up in the next year, and talk to you about how SouthPoint will partner with you as parents with your middle school and high school students. Then one other thing that's really cool is right after this service in the conference room, we have what's called Growth Track Series number 3. So our growth track at SouthPoint tells you a little bit about who we are, what our core values are, and how you can get into that growth track and move your life forward as well. There are 3 sessions and they are standalone. So if you've been coming to SouthPoint for a bit and you've been hearing about it, or if today's your first day and you're intrigued, please join us in the conference room for Growth Track Series number 3. And then the last piece that I want to mention today is at SouthPoint, we do have core values that guide who we are and how we carry ourselves. And one of our core values is that we are contributors, not consumers. What that means is that at SouthPoint Church, we are very generous people with our resources, with our time, with our finances, and what have you. But you will notice that we don't pass a basket for offering at SouthPoint Church. No, we believe that what you give is between your heart and God. And we invite you that if you are moved today to give, we would love to have you do that. You can do it in person. There's a kiosk in the lobby. You can go online, southpointforyou.com/give. We have a SouthPoint app, which I very much encourage you to download. You can get it from any app store. Helps you stay in touch with what's going on at SouthPoint, and you can give that way as well. We are generous people at SouthPoint, and what we do matters to our community locally, nationally, and globally. Prepare yourselves. Pastor Matt has a great message. God bless you. Have a great Sunday.
Well, good morning and welcome to SouthPoint Church on behalf of our amazing volunteers and staff. We just want to say we're so glad that you chose to be with us. We want to say hi to those of you online, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, or our website. We want to say good morning to those of you in your room. Is anyone fired up to be here this Sunday? Yeah, that's why I love the second service. Hey, we have a little saying that we say pretty regularly here at SouthPoint, but I haven't said it in the last couple weeks, so I just want to remind you, at SouthPoint, we don't really care why you showed up today, and the reason that we don't care is because you matter deeply to God. We also say we don't really care where you've been, because the news gets better as God is more concerned about where you're going than where you've been. And then probably the best news that we could tell you is it really doesn't matter what's been done by you or to you, because the greatest news in all of human history is that you, that me, that we are not defined by our failures, but that we can be defined by what Jesus did when he conquered hell and death on the cross and his tomb is empty. So we're glad that you showed up today here at SouthPoint. If it's your first Sunday online or in the room, we hope to see you again next Sunday. By the way, my name is Matt and I'm part of the team here at SouthPoint. And the reason that I think that today might be important is because today we're going to talk about something that is common to all of us. It doesn't matter whether you're young or old or rich or poor, whether you're single or got kids. It doesn't matter if you showed up today and you go, I don't really know about this God thing, or maybe you grew up with something other than Jesus, or maybe you've been going to church your whole life, but there's something in common that all of us can deal with. Matter of fact, I'm going to put this up on the screen, and here's what all of us have in common is we've all been fooled by opportunities that looked good, felt good, but they turned out badly for us. Somebody say amen. I want you to know, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but it looked good, it felt good, but it just didn't turn out to be good. Somebody nod like you know what I'm talking about. And here's what I discovered. If you're over the age of 7 years old, my guess is whether you're online in the room, you've actually experienced this. You thought it was going to be good, it felt good, but it wasn't good. You had an opportunity, you thought it was so good, but it wasn't. I've had lots of these. You figure someone would eventually, after enough of these, you'd like figure it out. But true story, I was in my early 20s. My wife and I had recently got married. We lived not here in Maryland. We lived in Virginia, right? And so we were young, and I had to go out to the store. And it was one of those typical suburban, shopping centers that you go that are on the side of the roads. And, there's like a restaurant, and there's a bank, and then there's a grocery. You got all the stuff, nail salon, got all the stuff right there. So I forget what I was going there for, but I went there, I parked, and I went and did whatever I did. And then on my way back, I got to my car, right? And all of a sudden I hear somebody say, hey, you. And I don't know about you, but I grew up in the hood, so when someone says, hey, you, I just ignore it, because I don't want to see you, I don't want to know. They're like, hey, you. And I just didn't look, and they're like, no, you, buddy, you, get into the car. And I turned, yeah. And it was two guys in this box truck, and it was didn't have a sign on it. It looked like one of those delivery trucks that had graffiti on it. It was just a big box truck, and there were two dudes, and they had smiles on their faces, like they were happy to be there. I don't know, that was a little awkward, right? But they're like, hey, dude, and they're like, yeah. And they go, hey, we're not from here. We had to make a delivery to this restaurant/bar, and we don't really know how to get back to the highway. How do we get back to 495? And so I said, oh, great, that's really easy. Let me tell you how to do it. Oh, thanks, man. Hey, by the way, we work for a company. We deliver these high-end speakers. We just delivered 2 of them there, but we looked on our, why some of you are laughing at me already. And so they're like, hey, we got these 2 extra speakers. They're not on the invoice, and we can't go. We don't want to go back with a load. We just want to go straight home and drop these off the shop. We don't really know what to do with them. Would you want some speakers? I was like, hey, man, no, thank you, man. And I start looking for the hidden cameras or the cops, right? And they're like, no, man, seriously, man, we got these 2 extra ones. We just got these speakers. We don't want to go back. We just need to dump them. Like, what would you do, man? We'll just, what would you do? These are like, and they started telling me these outrageous numbers of like what they are for these hanging speakers that they just put in this bar right over there, right? And, they wanted me to, you can just go to the ATM and get out some money. I said, I've seen that on Dateline. That doesn't end well. And so we began to haggle, and I was a follower of Jesus. I was, follow Jesus. I should have known, my radar was going off, like, you should run. But me, I just crazy anyway, right? So I just step into it. I'm just having this conversation, and we start haggling, right? And so I end up going to the ATM machine. They didn't rob me, and I'm not dead, and I'm not on Dateline. So this is all good, right? And so I end up buying these speakers, right? And so I come home, and I had like a car that really you couldn't fit speakers in. And so I'm pulling these things out of my car. And my wife, she comes home and these speakers are like this tall. They're like this tall. And there's these big boxes in her living room. She's, what are those? And I go, they're speakers. I didn't know we needed speakers. Well, they were on the back of a box truck. And she goes, did they give them to you? I go, no. Did you buy them? Yes. What's wrong with you? I got a really good deal. And my wife just looked at me and said, you moron. So anyway, I hooked up the speakers and they worked and they were great. They lasted, they lasted all of a couple weeks. No, they lasted fine, right? So anyway, this is God honest truth. 2 weeks later, my wife and I, we finished dinner. We're sitting there, we're newlyweds, we don't have kids yet, so we actually have time to watch the news, right? And so for those of you with kids, you know what I'm talking about, And so anyway, we actually had time to watch the news. And on the news, no lie, with my wife and I right there, there's a story, scammers selling stereo speakers out of the back of box trucks. Do not buy. And my wife looks at me. Now, I went, man, I got fooled. The opportunity looked good, it sounded good, it felt good, it was cheap. I got some speakers, but man, it turned out poorly for me that I bought crappy speakers at a price that I probably shouldn't have paid. And here's my guess is I'm not the only person that's been fooled by an opportunity that looked good and felt good. If we're really honest in this moment, how many of us have had the opportunity to look good at the expense of another? Remember the time in middle school or high school or elementary school or maybe just last week at work or in the gym, you had opportunity to stick up for someone or not say something bad, and instead you gossiped and joined in, and not only did you tarnish their reputation, you tarnished theirs and yours. Maybe it was an opportunity. It's a deal of the century. I promise you, this is a no-lose investment. Right? Come on, man. This is the deal. If you just get in on the bottom floor, I promise you, you'll be in and you should get it. And here's what I discovered. If it sounds too good to be true, it's too good to be true. And I bet all of us have a story where we went in financially and we lost some money because we thought we could make some easy money. That doesn't mean much. Maybe that wasn't you. Maybe for you, it was an opportunity to get in with the crew. You know what I'm talking about? You ever been in high school or at work or at the gym? There's always the cool kid club. And I was never a part of the cool kid club. You guys are probably yeah, we get a hold of that, man. We got that, right? But you ever have an opportunity to join the cool kid club, wherever the cool kid club is, and the cool kid club that is your thing, right? And they invite you in, and you're a little bit nervous because you don't know if that's the right opportunity. But you discover that when you join the cool kid club, that sometimes them being with you isn't the same as being for you, because often that crew will leave you holding the bag. You had the opportunity to take advantage. It was a loophole. They didn't see it on the bill. You don't actually have to claim it. Someone missed that. You have an opportunity to get ahead. It's just at the cost of your integrity. What about the opportunity to be excessive? You know what I discovered? We have the Tiki Bar here in Maryland. And you know what I discovered? No story ever starts with I drank too little. Yeah, y'all know what I'm talking about. We had an opportunity to be excessive, and then the bill came due and we didn't want to pay it. The opportunity for secret pleasure, and you know this and I know this, just because it's consensual doesn't mean that when we objectify each other, doesn't dehumanize us any less. And here's my guess, whether you're online or in the room, is that all of us, myself included, have been fooled by opportunities that looked good and felt good, but they turned out bad. Now, we're not trying to beat ourselves up. We're not trying to play the blame game. We're just admitting that all of us, myself included, have been fooled by opportunities, which leads us to a truth that you didn't come to. Like, listen, you already get this. It leads us to a truth that we already know. We're going to put up on the screen. Here's something you already know this. Unweighed opportunities. If you just take every opportunity that comes your way, unweighed opportunities will lead to unwanted regret. And here's why it's so important today. It's because if you have little regret, you have a better life. Somebody smile and say amen. The reality is the more regret that you have, the less better life that you have. And so being able to decide what opportunities are good and what opportunities are bad directly impact the quality of your life and my life and our life. And so we need to be able to answer that question. Now we're gonna come back to that question in a minute or so, but hey, we're in week 4 of a series called Crazy, how to deal with the chaos on the inside and how to deal with the chaos on the outside, because here's the truth, crazy is unavoidable. Here's the reality, there's crazy on the inside. Turn to your neighbor and say, he's talking about me, right? There's crazy on the outside, and just turn to your neighbor and say, they're talking about you, right? And it's just crazy all around us, right? Like, listen, you can't get away from crazy, and if you say there's no crazy in your life, you're it. Right? And there's been this big idea about crazy that we've said every week that you know. And we're going to put up on the screen. Here's the big idea about this whole series is this. All of us have fallen for crazy, right? All of us. All of us have fallen crazy because it disguises itself as pleasure with no price tag. The reason that we get fooled, the reason that crazy disguises itself, because it tells us it's going to be good. This is an opportunity. You should do it. It's normal. It'll work. But no one ever wants to pay the bill when it becomes due. Because you have regret, I have regret. We all know we got exactly what we wanted. We just didn't want to pay the bill. And every week we've admitted this truth to here that all of us are going to face. Every one of us, right? Every one of us has crazy thoughts, crazy feelings, crazy opportunities, and crazy influences. And the good news is every week we discovered that God gave us Jesus because Jesus is meant to be the anchor. That when the storm of crazy comes, Jesus is the anchor that keeps us from shipwrecking our lives on the shores of chaos and crazy. Now, the good news is today's message, it'll make sense all by itself. So if you miss week 1, 2, or 3, it really doesn't matter. If you'd like to catch up, you can go to our website or you can subscribe to our YouTube and you can watch on demand. And as we go back to our question is how do we decide which opportunities ones we should say yes to and which are the opportunities we should say no to? We have to start off with just a simple truth. Now this is like first grade, like 101. And so you might be going, duh, but I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, okay? And here's the basic truths about how to make good decisions. And here's the first one. We're going to put it right up here on the screen, right? Opportunities can be both good and bad. Listen, God is not against opportunities. The church is not against opportunities. You shouldn't be against opportunities. But we do need to admit the truth that there are some good opportunities. Somebody say amen. We should also admit that opportunities can be bad. Somebody say amen, right? Listen, the reality is that opportunities are both good and bad, and we need to be able to decide. But leads us to what we've just discovered. Unweighed opportunities will lead to unwanted regret. Now here's the hard part, because I look out here, you guys are like beautiful and smart, and it got me asking this question. Why do we fall for crazy opportunities? Like, why is it? And here's what I discovered about me. Like, maybe this isn't you, but I discovered I got a defect. I got a defect. And here's the defect that I discovered. And listen, at SouthPoint, like, we want to try to follow Jesus, and Jesus tells us things we need to hear, not the things we want to hear. Somebody smile. Right? And so this is a defect I discovered about me, and I just want to know, maybe you've experienced this defect, and I'm going to put it up on the screen. And it's the reason why we get fooled by opportunities. And here's the defects I struggle with. I get fooled because I like self-gratification. If it feels good, I want it. Give me those potato chips. I love me some crumble cookie. Right? Tastes good. I got to work a lot on the treadmill to work one cookie off. I get fooled by self-gratification. I get fooled by self-promotion. Does it make me look good? Will it be good on Instagram or TikTok? Right? I get fooled by self-preservation. Is it actually good for me? Because the world's crazy. I just need to make sure that I'm protected. And here's what I discovered. I'm my own worst enemy. And the reason I'm my own worst enemy is because I get blinded by self-gratification, self-promotion, and self-preservation. And here would be my guess. Every time you fell for a bad opportunity, it's because you were your own worst enemy, because you believed that self-gratification, promotion, and self-preservation was best. Now, you might be going, man, I need some good news, man. You're not making me smile. what's going on here? But here's the good news. You know, there's some silver lining in this reality. There's a reason why we get fooled by opportunities. The silver lining is you're not alone. Every single human in every single generation has had to face this. And not only has every single human in every single generation had to deal with this, God knew that we would struggle. As a matter of fact, Jesus addresses this idea of how do we know if there's a good opportunity, a bad opportunity? Jesus lays it out because did you know that while Jesus was fully God, he was fully human, and he faced all the temptations and all the struggles that you and I face so that we could follow his example. By the way, not the example of your politician, your pastor, or your neighbor, but Jesus. It's just Jesus. There are no perfect people. There was one. His name is Jesus. And he showed us actually how to deal with it. Now, I want to show you where Jesus had an opportunity to take a shortcut. It looked good. It was going to feel good, but it wasn't good. But before I do, I need to kind of set the stage so you understand what Jesus is going through. Because you understand, when Jesus showed up in our world, he was born into the Jewish nation, right? But you have to understand the Jewish nation had been conquered by the Roman army. And you have to understand there were two groups of power. And these two groups of power, they pretended to be for people, but they weren't. So a majority of the people were suffering. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound familiar? Because human history repeats that pattern. So you had a group of religious elites who were very legalistic and they wanted everyone to believe what they wanted to do, but they did it just because they wanted to be in power, they wanted to be right, they wanted to have all the privilege and the prestige and have all the ease. And they didn't really care about the common people, right? And then you had Rome on the other side that says power and pleasure is where you find life. And we're for you, but if you're not for us, we'll kill you. And so the people in the middle were the ones that were getting hurt. But God showed up. And his name was Jesus. And here's what's amazing about Jesus. Jesus began to heal the incurable. Jesus began to forgive those who seemed irredeemable. And Jesus began to love those who were told that they were unlovable. And all of a sudden, all the people started going to wherever Jesus was because God showed up. And there was life found in that. And that's where we pick it up. I mean, people are fired up about some Jesus. We pick this up, and this is an eyewitness account of the Gospel of John. John 6:15, here's what it says. It says this, Jesus knowing that they intended to come and make him king. So they had a king, they had Caesar. And then the religious people said God was their king, but the people said, those two kings that you keep telling us about, they don't care about us. This one, Jesus, he seems to care about us. We're gonna make him king. And they were like, we're gonna do this by force. But Jesus withdrew again to a mountain by himself. Jesus had the opportunity to be a king. What you don't know is Jesus had already been given the opportunity to be a king earlier when he was in the wilderness. There was one, the tempter came to him and said, you don't have to go to the cross. You don't have to be betrayed. You don't have to be separated from your heavenly Father. All you have to do is worship me and you'll avoid all that. You'll get to be a king. And he had said no. And again, he faces another opportunity where the people want to grab him and make him the king. What a great opportunity. He can avoid his friends betraying him and denying him. He can avoid being tortured on a cross. He can avoid death. He can avoid carrying the weight of people's sins and being isolated and disconnected from his heavenly Father and the Holy Spirit for the only time in eternity. He can avoid all that by just becoming the king if he force him. But he'd be a king of wrecked people because you know this and I know this. What's wrong on the outside comes from the inside. And if he was a king by force, then he would force what is right on the outside, but it would never fix what was on the inside. So he'd be a king, all right. Just a king of wrecked people. So what did he do? Withdrew again to a mountain by himself. Now, listen, when the disciples wrote this, anybody of that day would have known exactly what Jesus did to respond to this opportunity. Now, it doesn't say it explicitly, but we hear in Luke 5:16 that when Jesus withdraws himself to the mountain, it means he's doing something. We say this in Luke 5:16. It says this. It says, but Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and he was provided this opportunity. Man, it looked good. It was going to feel good, but would it actually be good? And so he paused and he prayed. And here's what Jesus teaches us. And here's what I think God is saying to you and to me and to we today. We're going to put it up on the screen. And it's the example that Jesus set. Jesus had the habit of prayer. And prayer is just talking to God. Jesus had the habit of prayer to determine what opportunities he took or he rejected. So before he took an opportunity, he was like, hey, God, is this an opportunity I should take? What's your wisdom? What should I do, God? What is your plan and your purpose for me? Because Jesus was a king. When they went to crucify him, he was asked by Pilate, and he said, I am a king. That's why he was crucified, king as the Jews. But you see, he knew that if he did what his father said, yes, he would be betrayed and abandoned. Yes, he would be tortured. And yes, for the only time in eternity, he would bear my sin and our sin of the world, and he'd be separated from God the Father and God the Spirit. But then he would be a king of the redeemed people because we're forgiven, not because we're good or we showed up at the church, but because Jesus paid our penalty, and then he conquered hell and death, and his tomb is empty. And you see, what looked wise, Jesus would have been a king of wrecked people, not a king of redeemed people. And I'm so glad that I am a child of the redeemed king, not the wrecked. Now, matter of fact, this idea that Jesus had the habit of prayer to determine what opportunities he took and rejected. Matter of fact, Jesus had a half-brother. He was a disciple named James. Now, this is a little, I just want to just catch this. What would it take for your sibling to believe that you were God's only son? Yeah, y'all are laughing because, literally you'd have to predict your death and then raise from the dead after I made sure you were dead. But James, the half-brother of Jesus, actually was martyred for his trust in his half-brother because he knew he was risen from the grave. And he writes a group of Jesus followers this truth. He wants them to follow Jesus' example. Matter of fact, in James 1, he writes this. We're going to put it up on the screen. He says, if any of you lacks wisdom. Now, I'm going to stop here, and I'm just going to offend everyone, okay? Just bing, buckle up, okay? You know what regret is? Regret means we don't have the wisdom to make all the right choices. And the problem is we always want to believe that we know what's best when we actually don't. And so the reality is all of us lack wisdom. We just aren't willing to admit it. That was free. That was extra. That just came to me. If any of you lacks wisdom, which would be me, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault. You know what without finding fault means? It means if you don't believe enough, he'll still give you wisdom. It means if you're not good enough, he'll still give you wisdom. And if you don't feel special enough, it's okay, he'll give it to you because he gives generously without finding fault. The only requirement that you need to get wisdom from God is to humble yourself enough to ask him for it. Now, here's what I discovered. People go, I asked God for wisdom and he didn't give it to me. Here would be my question. How many of us prayed that, heard something, and then said, I don't want to do that? I offended everybody at the first service. I was like, man, come on, you get it. You go, God, I want to lose weight. Well, then you need to diet and exercise. I want to be out of debt. Great. Save and spend less. I don't want to do that, God. I want to win the lottery. That's not wisdom. That's called giving your money to somebody else. So the real question isn't that God doesn't give wisdom. The real question is will we listen to the wisdom that God has already given us? And it will be given to you. Now, here's the thing. Here's what I love. It's because James doesn't leave you and I guessing what does God's wisdom look like versus our wisdom. Now, this is the part where it gets a little bit sticky, but I just, again, Jesus tells us things we need to hear, not the things we want to hear so we can experience life and life to the full. Jesus says the thief comes to kill, steal, and destroy, but I've come that you might have life and life to the full. And so the half-brother of Jesus, right? He's been around him. He's seen him prayed. He has the wisdom of God. And he writes a church a lot like this. And he says this. James 3:15 says, for jealousy and selfishness are not God's kind of wisdom. Do you notice that word selfishness? Self-gratification, self-preservation, self-promotion. That is not God's kind of wisdom. Such things are earthly, unspiritual, and inspired by the devil. Oh, I'm about to get to church. So if you're not a follower of Jesus, you get to sit back and eat some popcorn. But the wisdom from above is, first of all, pure. The intention is, I am not getting something from you. I want something for you the same way that God got something for us, not from us. It is peace-loving. Man, that sounds like the church right now in our culture. We're peace-loving people. We don't take sides and create arguments. I'm being facetious. We're gentle at all times. Oh yeah, we've been really gentle this election cycle, haven't we? We're just the gentlest people. Willing to yield to others. Full of mercy, good deeds, shows no favoritism, and is sincere. Listen, I don't get it right all the time either. I mean, we all get it wrong. But here's what God is telling us. There's two kinds of wisdom. And so I'm just going to put up here because like I'm a person, I just need simple. I know we got rocket scientists and engineers here and all smart people, right? I just need simple. Is it okay if I do simple? So here's what James is telling us simply. He says there's this human wisdom. And human wisdom is always about self-gratification, self-promotion, and self-preservation. And I would ask you this question. Matter of fact, it's not really mine. I stole it from Dr. Phil. Thanks, Dr. Phil. How's that working? When we look at the news, when we look at human history, I want to ask, how is human wisdom working? And you and I know the answer to that. It's where regret comes from. If we want regret, then just follow human wisdom. But Jesus tells us that there's another kind of wisdom. See, this is, like, listen, I just need to understand. This is why I'm an all-in follower of Jesus, because he makes it so simple. He gets rid of all the fluff, all the excuses. He says, listen, you want to know what it means to be in a relationship with God, not religion. Not religion. A relationship with God is so simple. Put God first. Like, just put God first. Second, love others the way I did. You see how he got rid of all the complications. And here's what's amazing, is that when we honor God and love others the way Jesus did, it doesn't matter what happens, because even death and hell couldn't kill Jesus. And when that life lives in us and the wisdom of God is lived through us, death and hell will not win, and we live the kind of life that cannot be destroyed. So we have a choice. We have a choice when we face opportunities. Which wisdom will we use? We will use our human wisdom, or will we ask God for his wisdom that leads to life? The kind of life that's worth living forever. So the real question is well, how do I do that? How, like, for everyday people like me and you, how do we do that in everyday life? There's three things that Jesus teaches that we can all do. And I just want to go over them briefly. And whenever a preacher says briefly, he means at least 10 more minutes, okay? Just so no one laughed at that. That makes me sad. First, pray for wisdom beyond our own. Here's what I discovered. The reason I have regret is because I don't know best. Somebody should say amen. I can't see all things. I've been wounded. I've been warped. There are things that I don't know and I can't see. And so I need someone who can see further, better, and faster, and more accurate than I can. And it's not Matt, it is the Lord. And so we need to pray for a wisdom beyond our own, because regret is simply we did what we wanted to. It shows that we don't have the wisdom that we need. True story. Years ago, I had this relationship, and in this relationship, there was a big issue, and I had kind of solved it. It was one of those things you can't ignore. And you have to understand, usually when I dealt with a relationship, I had two extremes. I had the crazy Matt, I call him the Dateline Matt. The kind of dude that gets crazy and jealous and is gonna end up on like one of those Dateline shows, or like how would that crazy person ever, like that'd be me, right? And the other one was the dude that tried to be too nice and always just, sure, do whatever you want, I'm just gonna be nice to you. And here's what I discovered is that neither one of those actually worked. They never actually got me the results I wanted. So I was on this way to have this conversation about this relationship, and I didn't know what to do. I could go crazy Matt, but I know that that's never worked in my life. And I could go being Mr. Nice Matt, but that doesn't always get you the results you want, because you have to set boundaries. And so I didn't know what to do. So I am telling you no lie. On the way there, I prayed, God, I need you to give me wisdom. I don't know what to do. And God gave this moron and this knucklehead some wisdom. And the thing is, the wisdom that God gave me is something that I didn't want to do. I didn't like that answer. Because the answer meant that I was no longer in control. And what I discovered is I'm not in control anyway. Control is just an illusion. That was free. You guys should hold on to that one. And here's what I discovered, is that oftentimes we ask God for wisdom and he'll give it to us. Oftentimes the question isn't will we hear, it's will we actually do it. Knowledge is knowing. Wisdom is applying what you know at the right time, the right way. Pray for wise boundaries. And now this one, man, look, this one's gonna blow your mind. I discovered this. When I discovered this, I was like, man, I wish I could tell everyone, and I get to tell everyone, right? Did you know that you can pray for wise boundaries before you get to the situation? Really? It's think of a budget. Do you know what a budget is? Budget is you just made a decision in advance of getting your money so that you ain't broke at the end of the month. And see, we could have, did you know you could do that in other areas of your life? I didn't know that. I didn't know that you could prayerfully make boundaries before you got in the situation, because here's what I learned. Did you know that a prepared decision is always better than a pressured decision? When you're in your group with your posse in high school or middle school, the time to make the decision, are you in or out, is not in the moment, but beforehand. When you're in the office and someone flirts with you and you are married, the time that you make the decision is not in the moment, but beforehand. When you can take a shortcut and cheat people out of money, the time is not to make the decision in the moment, but to do it beforehand. To prayerfully go, I have decided before I get there. Did you know this is scientifically backed? That when you and I experience stress, we have this thing called the prefrontal cortex, which is kind of your logic and your thinking decision. And it kind of overcomes, and you have something, kind of that fight or flight mechanism, right? I think it's the amygdala, right? And it kind of my wife did this thing with like first graders. So you're getting a first grader lesson, like it's simple. That's me, right? And so what happens in normal, when you're not in stressful situations, your prefrontal cortex helps you make logical decisions. But under stress, it's like the wise owl flies away during stress, and all you got is fight or flight. Many of us wait to that pressure decision and make a poor decision instead of making a prepared decision. Did you know you can set a boundary ahead of time? So that when you get in that moment, that decision's already made for you. I know who I want to be and whose I belong to. True story. I don't know how it happened. I don't know where I got it. Maybe it was because I had seen some things. But I made a decision early in my life that money would never trump relationship. That there was no amount of money, because listen, I've never seen a hearse follow a funeral home. What do you call it? The Hertz rental truck. You know, you ever seen like U-Haul? You've never seen a U-Haul following a Hertz. That's the right way. Right? You can't take it with you, right? And so what I discovered is that relationships are more important. And so like this, you don't have to do this, but for my family, we don't loan family money. We give it. So we make a yes or no decision, because I don't want money to ever be an issue between me and my family, because they're family. I value relationship over dollars. If I have it, the answer is yes. If I don't, the answer is no, and you're not going to guilt me into it. No is a one-word sentence. That was free too. And what I discovered is that if someone feels like I owe them money, or I'm dealing with somebody and I've got to pay them, instead of fighting and arguing, I will try to set healthy boundaries. But I also go, at the end of the day, my integrity in our relationship is worth more than money, whatever the bill is. And I can't take it with me, but the thing I will take with me for eternity is my relationships. Did you know that you can set boundaries ahead of time? And lastly is pray for wise friends. Now, listen, I just want to stop for a second. This is so important. Wise friends have a perspective that will protect you from you. See, here's what I discovered. I need wise friends who have a perspective that can protect me from me, because my own worst enemy is me, because I am blinded by my selfishness. The good thing is when you get wise friends around you, they have a different perspective. They can see what you can't see, and they will speak into your life and go, I am only sharing this because I want you to be protected. Do you have wise friends? Have you prayed for wise friends? Matter of fact, last week was our small group connect, and I said, listen, everyone should be in a small group. Listen, there are too many people online and in the room for the SouthPoint pastors to be everyone. We can't do that. Plus, some of us are crazy. You might not like what you get when you get one of us as your friends. And so we do these things called small groups. True story. My wife and I, our first two daughters, they're 18 months apart. Our first two daughters are 18 months apart. They're really close. And there was this season in our life when they were both young. One was, just a brand new baby, probably 3 months old. The other one was, like 20 months old or 21. They're 18 months. And so I can do math. 3 and 18 is 21. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, so they were little, right? And so I was having breakfast with his friend, and my friend said, hey, Matt, how you doing? I was like, I got bags under my eyes. I'm drooling. I'm trying to drink some coffee, and it's coming down my face. He says, Matt, I just need to let you know something. You'll be okay. I go, what? He goes, listen, my wife and I, we named where you're at. And I go, what did you call it? He goes, the dark years. What? Do I need to pray for you? You've been watching a supernatural movie? He goes, no. And listen, when you have young kids, right, you usually have young kids at a certain age when one of you is trying to make your career, so you have a lot of financial pressure, right? And then I'm not man enough to be a woman. A woman births a brand new baby, like another human being. That's miraculous and amazing. My hat is off to all the moms and the ladies that do that. You guys are amazing. So there's financial pressure, there's physical pressure. You don't get any sleep. You have no idea what you're doing. Like, come on, like, I've read all the How to Baby Your Baby like books, right? And when they were happening, I just freaking out, right? And so we called it the dark years, but my friend said, listen, they will eventually grow up and go to school and you'll have a different season. So don't make any dumb decision in your dark years. Because you'll begin to believe you married the wrong person, or you shouldn't have had kids, or you should have made more money, or you should have done all these things, because it's just hard. Don't worry, the dark years will pass. And what I loved is this friend had a perspective that protected me from something that I couldn't see. And I just want to ask, have you prayed that God would give you wisdom beyond your own? Have you prayed that God would give you the wisdom and the boundaries ahead of time? And have you prayed that God would give you some wise friends? So if we were in like a lecture, which we're not, and the professor was going to go, what is the summation of it? They would sum it up like this, and they would say this. They would say, unweighed opportunities lead to unwanted regret. I mean, at the end of the day, the more regret we have, the less the good life that we have that we want. And so if we weigh our opportunities, we'll experience less regret. And the way that we weigh our opportunities is have the habit of praying that God would give us wisdom, that we prayerfully go, what are the boundaries that we should have ahead of time? And prayerfully ask that God would bring some friends into our life so we can say yes to the right things and no to the wrong things. I think what God might be saying to me, maybe to you, if you're willing to hear, is I think he's saying this, and we're gonna put it up on the screen. It's coming. Prayerful wisdom can guide us through the maze of crazy opportunities, because crazy's coming. Crazy lives on the inside, crazy exists on the outside. And all of us will have opportunities that look good and feel good, but end poorly. And our hope and our prayers that we would have the wisdom of God so we'd make choices that lead to the kind of life that death and hell cannot defeat. I want to close with a true opportunity. Now, for some of you older folks that have been coming for a while, you've probably heard this, but before my wife and I had our first child, we were presented an opportunity. We lived in Virginia. We lived in a county called Loudoun County. While my wife and I were living in Loudoun County, it was the fastest growing county in the country for about a decade straight. Wealthy, affluent, and beautiful. Matter of fact, I had been sent to a foster home, and that's where I met my adopted mom and dad. And I started working for an organization that was a Christian organization working with middle school and high school students. You know, after years of this, all of a sudden I began to have a family, an adopted mom and dad and sisters. All of a sudden I had hundreds of kids that knew me, and I had a reputation of one who loved Jesus. And I looked at my life and I go, man, this is a miracle. Like, how did I get here? And the only answer is Jesus. And I worked for this organization called Young Life, and they said, hey, we really would like you to move to go start Young Life where there is no Young Life. And I was like, well, that's cool. That's awesome, man. I'll do it. I'm crazy. They said, we found a place for you. It's just like where you're living now. It's great. Where is it? They called it St. Mary's. I go, I've never heard of it. They go, great. It's about a 2-hour drive. And then what's just funny is I used to drive along the Beltway, and I'm Virginia, and I'm just admitting my Virginia bias. I used to go, God, you can send me to Africa, just don't send me to Maryland, right? Those drivers. All right, so it's in St. Mary's, Maryland. When you tell God what you don't want to do, he'll say, hold my beer, And I'm just joking. Hopefully no one gets offended by that, right? So I drive for about an hour. I get to Waldorf, and I'm like, woo! And then I drive some more, and I start hitting Amish country, and I'm like, what did we do? We must be lost. It's funny, as I looked at the opportunity, those 3 things of self-gratification, there was no immediate family, no one knew me. My wife and I would be alone raising our kids in a community that had no idea who we were. How would I become famous in St. Mary's? It wasn't a legacy Young Life area, it was brand new if it failed. And then we had 3 high schools, like how was I gonna become famous and make this awesome? And if I told you the salary, I think it was $28,000 with a pregnant wife is what I'd be making to move to this county. Self-promotion, self-preservation, and self-gratification, all the marks. No bad idea. But I prayed about it, and God told me that this community needs to be loved for Jesus too. And so I said, all right, God, I'll go there. And my goal was I'm gonna go in for a couple of years and lead this bad boy. 25 years later. One of the best decisions that I ever made, not because it was my wisdom, but because it was the wisdom of God. And it's his wisdom that will make a way for us to know what opportunities to take and to reject. Now, when you came in, you were given a communion thing, and I want you to go ahead and grab that. We're not going to take it yet. We're going to sing a worship song. If you don't have one, you can raise your hand and usher will bring you a communion cup. And you know what communion is? Communion isn't a ritual that like is magical. Communion is for people who have said yes to Jesus, just so we're clear. Communion is I've said yes to Jesus, and it reminds us that Jesus lived, that Jesus died, and that Jesus rose again because he wanted to be a king of redeemed people, not wrecked people. People changed from the inside, not from the outside. So I have two challenges for you. Challenge number one, you know, when you wake up in the morning, before you brush your tooth, before you get your advice from TikTok, why don't you just pray that God would give you wisdom? I encourage you for the next 30 days, what if you woke up every morning and go, God, would you give me wisdom for every opportunity today, and see how different your life is 30 days from now. Here's the second challenge. If you go, that's too risky, is join a small group where you can make friends who are headed in the right direction. Would you stand and let us pray? Hey God, thank you that you wanted to be the king of the redeemed people. God, that you didn't take a shortcut. Jesus, that you didn't take the easy way. That you were willing to suffer so that we could come home, so that our hearts could be changed. God, my prayer for us online, in the room, and myself is that we'd have eyes to see. You would give us ears to hear your small, still voice. But most importantly, God, that you would give us hearts that would trust and obey and say yes to your wisdom so that we don't end up with regret and we can experience what Jesus said, that he came that he might have life and life to the full. Thank you for pointing the way. Thank you that when we miss it, that there's grace. Thank you that when we get it wrong, that there is mercy found, not in a religion, but in a person. That there's no sin that the blood of Jesus can't forgive. We love you and thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Would you stay standing as we continue in worship?
Holding back the seas. There is no other name but the name that is Jesus. He who was and still is and will be through it all. So come on, lay in the space between all the things unseen and His reckoning. And I know I will never be alone. I know I will never be alone. There'll be another in the fire standing next to me. There'll be another in the waters holding back the seas. And should I ever need reminding how good you've been to me, I'll count the joy come every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. And I can see the light in the darkness as the darkness bows to Him. I can hear the roar in the heavens as the space between wears thin. I can feel the ground shake beneath us as the prison walls cave in. Nothing stands between us. Nothing stands between. There'll be another in the fire standing next to me. There'll be another in the water holding back the seas. And should I ever need reminding how good you've been to me, I'll count the joy come every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. I'll count the joy come every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be.
On the night Christ was betrayed, He took the bread and He said, "This is my body broken for you. When you get together, do this in remembrance." You know, what's amazing is the worldly wisdom said for Jesus to avoid it. But the wisdom of God, when Jesus was broken, makes us whole. Let us do this in remembrance of the one who set us free. The same way He took the cup and He blessed it. And He says, "This is my blood shed of the new covenant." You and I aren't adopted into the family of God by trivial things. God broke heaven's bank and His blood was shed so that you and I could be free. The wisdom of God found in a person named Jesus. Let us do this in remembrance of Him. May the wisdom and grace of God carry you in all the opportunities you face this week as you make Christ smile. God bless. Have a great week, and you're dismissed.
Wow. Thank you, worship team, so much for reminding us that there is always someone beside us in the fire of life every day. What a good message. And thanks, Pastor Matt, for such a good series. I have loved every second of this series.
Yes, for sure. Just thinking about wisdom today and just knowing that God is freely going to give it is just so encouraging to remember to stop and ask and seek after Him, and He will guide us and direct us, and He
100%.
does it gladly, which is really awesome.
Wonderful. Love it.
Yeah.
So good.
Hey friends, if this is your first service with us, we want to just say thank you. We want this service to be a gift to you. If you are a regular attender here online or in person, now is the time that you can go to southpointforyou.com/give. And giving is an act of worship, and we appreciate the ways that you partner with us financially. And that money goes to worship in a way that is not musical, but in a way that impacts our community and both inside and outside our church walls. And so we just thank you for that, and you can do that right now.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for partnering with SouthPoint that way. Hey, ladies, if you're looking for an opportunity to recharge and lean in some more to this beautiful message of the gospel, we invite you to join us for IF 2023. It's coming up March 3rd and 4th. If you've not yet registered, go online to ifsomd.com. Get all the information and register for that.
Absolutely. And don't forget to check out southpointforyou.com/groups to find out how you can get connected to a weekly small group. It's encouraging, it's helpful, and we would love to get you connected in that way.
And we want to remind you that as you're going through the week, if you think of something and you want to reach out to SouthPoint Church, it's never too small, it's never too big. We invite you to do that. You can text or you can call 240-925-8787. Someone will reach back out to you. And as you go through your week, there's one key thing we want to remind you.
Yes. You matter deeply to God.
Have a great Sunday, everybody.
Bye, friends.